Okay, welcome Luvena Rangel. It's such a pleasure to be moderating you. Luvena is not only a great friend, but we've gotten to know each other because of a very active role in All Ladies League and the WEF over the years. Luvena is talking on a very interesting topic for, I think, many globally about yoga and India and rebooting the position of India and yoga in the world. It's very interesting how she got our attention to it, saying when you do a Google search on yoga, you rarely do get a lot of mention of India, though we are kind of the source, I mean, the origin of yoga. So, Luvena, this is exciting to spend the next 25 minutes with you. Luvena is the founder of Curvy Yogi, and she's a body positive yoga teacher trainer with a background in medicine and holistic health and teaching credentials in Ayurveda and meditation. She's one of Bangalore's leading yoga, anatomy, and physiology and philosophy educators. And she's also the current president of Vicky Karnataka Yoga Sector Council. Her expertise lies in holistic management of spinal conditions, physiological disorders, and thyroid imbalances. Luvena is a strong advocate of belonging and conscious culture with an active approach towards diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. She's worked closely with many leading companies like eBay, the Bangalore Police, BHEL, LifeCell, HPE, and has been an advisor to Yoga Alliance US for numerous projects. So without much ado, I welcome you, Luvena, to enlighten us on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro, Ritu. And you're right, we go back many years. In fact, I think ever since I got into all, my very first person after Harbeen who I spoke was with you. So lovely to have you here when I get to speak on something that I'm so passionate about, actually. Everything begins with when we spoke about the Google search, right? We're talking about a digital summit today, so we are online. So the first place where we look at how we position ourselves does go online. If we have to look for a yoga teacher, we go online. If we have to look for a meditation teacher, we go online. And then we're still trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going online, where exactly am I? Online, the online presence actually puts us also in the position of interacting globally. We are interacting with teachers, with students and practitioners all over the world. But at the same time, what we're doing is we are just catering to a need. And when we cater to the need, then we open up the doors for capitalism. And that's also fine because yoga teachers today also have to earn a living. We've got bills to pay, we've got electricity, food, and all the things that we do need. So it is important. But when it came to the WEF topic this year, we're talking about reconnection, we're talking about rebooting, re-energizing. The first thing that came to me as a professional in the yoga industry, as we call it today, was where is India positioned at this point in time? Now, we're not even talking in terms of, the political situation, because yoga, even Indian cooking for that matter, is something that we consider as a soft power. There is a specific category that we cater to when it comes to Indian clothing, Indian culture, Indian movies, anything. But rebooting it on this level, at this platform, was important because one way or the other, today, even if I weren't a yoga educator, we are consumers of yoga, right? And as an Indian woman, when I speak of yoga, I initially think of, okay, it's normal for me. It's something that we hear of all the time. We hear of it either from our families or in our newspapers or whatever. But how do we as Indians also see yoga? It is not the yoga that we have from our scriptures or that we have from traditions or lineages. When we think of yoga right now, most people think of asana. They think of, contorting the body. The moment you say, I'm a yoga teacher, and then they say, oh, so you can do a headstand, can you? Well, maybe I can and maybe I can't. But the thing is that our immediate thought goes to a very physical practice. And this physicality of yoga actually comes from a misposition of of what yoga is today. Now, this is where the Google question or that lead came on to. If you just do a Google search, we just do a Google search on yoga, And the first thing you see is the New York Times, or you see videos on, apart from Wikipedia, you see everything that is non-Indigenous. There is no Indian article that is right on top. Okay, go to the tabs. If you go to the tabs, in the first 12 images of, you hardly see any Indian teacher there. You don't. I'm not talking about male, female. You don't. You just see able-bodied, largely white yoga practitioners or asana bodies in that Google search. Today, I went on further to even look for yoga teachers. When I went for yoga teachers, no women, no men, no people of color, only white people in asana. And you can do the search and prove me if I'm wrong, but that's what it is. So if that's the case, and if I am just a contemporary Indian teacher, you and I both know that there are so many Indian teachers in the country. And we're talking about not just teachers who are pushing the media bandwagon, right? We're talking about teachers who are practicing the scripture, or practicing the philosophy. And this is important because India is a land. You remember, many years ago when I was speaking, when I was just still exploring spirituality and exploring what do I need to study next, and I still study. One of my teachers said, Luvena, you come from the land of the occult. And I said, I do. Okay. So if I come from the land of occult, where are these teachers who would teach me? Where are they? Why is it that when I have to look for them, that I can't find them? Now, of course, if you look at it on a very personal journey, then I have to step out of the house. I have to search. I don't have to limit my search to the internet. But the point of this topic is, when we're looking at it on a global basis, on a global foundation, we do need to look at what is the picture that yoga presents. Because unfortunately, the lens that we see today, or the platform, or the foundation, or the voice, the loudest voice, is of yoga that is not in India. And we, even in India, what we teach today, unfortunately, is a repackaged and re-imported version of what someone else has once taken away. I don't even say exported, because we didn't export it. We might have, but historically speaking, politically speaking, it was also taken away. It was stolen to some extent as well. So that taken heritage of ours, that taken culture, which is outside and repackaged to fit someone else's version of what yoga wants to be, according to them, is today what, very, very unfortunately, we as the Indian yoga consumers are rebuying. We're taking it back. And in the process, our own history, our own heritage, and our own culture is getting lost as well as distorted. And that is where it's important for me at this point to really look at rebooting. Rebooting, because just like how we do with our machine, something isn't working, it's just stuck somewhere. We have the option of rebooting the machine. Rebooting at this point is required. Now, why it's required is, one, for the preservation, but two, for our own sense of identity. At the end of the day, we are all still looking for identity. And this is not necessarily about ego, but this is also, who do I identify as? Where am I coming from? So my own spiritual purpose, now we're talking dharma here. We're talking about swadharma as well as dharma. What is the righteous path? And in yoga, we've got all these philosophies, these codes of conduct. We've got yama and we've got niyama, and those are the codes of conduct that we live by. And in professional settings, in culture, when we talk about organizational culture, we speak about these. We speak of ethics, we speak of values and code of conduct. There's no difference between a yogic system for our country or for our existence and for the culture of an organization. You're a corporate leader, you know what the diversity and the inclusion, or the values and the embodiment of an organization mean. It gives every employee an identity.
Sure.
I speak through the lens of yoga, but every practitioner has that sense of identity, and holding true or bearing that torch or bearing that flag of identity helps us to stand firmly in the essence of who we are. Instead of, it's not, doormat is a very strong word, but instead of lying flat and saying, okay, I will take what the rest of the world offers in terms of yoga. Last year, there was one of our Indian teachers here who approached me and said, Luvena, do you know this teacher? Okay, and they offered a name. Now, the name didn't actually signify any specific culture, so I didn't know where the teacher was coming from. I said, no, who is this? They said, oh, but this is a very famous yoga teacher in the US. And I had to look that teacher up, and I saw that they had a number of Instagram followers and Facebook followers. And so social media following does set the trend for who is the expert or who is the legit voice.
Right.
We do not have that resource in India. We do not. Now we're still at this point focusing on asana. But when we have indigenous teachers of our culture, teachers of our philosophy, those teachers don't go by Facebook and Instagram. Now, you know, I work with social media and I am active on Instagram, but I still am somewhere in the 2000 something, and I do not have the time to actively market. Now, I know teachers, there are teachers like Swami Yogaratna, my own teacher, Pradeep Satvamaya, or teachers from the Satyananda lineage, or are some teachers who actually have their very quiet lineage, who do their work, who do their sadhana by themselves. These teachers do not have an Instagram account. Teachers who have 15K and 15 followers cannot compare with the wisdom that they carry. And this is why I, as not just a yoga teacher, but also as an Indian woman, as an Indian yoga teacher, I find that it is so important for us to repeat this. We cannot force it on our people. We cannot force it on our neighbors and our children, but we can proactively, initiate such conversations. We initiate the education to let them know that this is the source of it. This is where it comes from. So rebooting was, in a way, the right word for us to talk about, when it came to just building that experience.
Yeah. I mean, this is very interesting, Luvena, because I think, like you've mentioned, you're in the middle of the industry, and as like a corporate leader, once we're in the center of things, that's when we realize the kind of concerns. I mean, from the outside world, I've been doing yoga for years, but I've never realized that, yes, maybe we as Indian, the yoga industry lack an identity. I mean, it's such an important point that you're putting forth, and I'm really hoping. I know you've taken on this lead role in Wiki in the yoga sector and the wellness, and wellness is big now in our country. It's going to,
yes.
I mean, all over the world, but even India is waking up to the Ayurvedas, to the yoga and spa formats as well. And I am really hoping that the problem statement that you just mentioned and the rebooting, you're going to put together a team of yoga professionals and leaders who are going to join you in this and bringing a distinct voice to this refrain that you have. So yeah,
yes,
sounds interesting.
Actually, the Wiki Karnataka Yoga Sector Council is already on. We launched on International Day of Yoga in June, and we are a collective of 22 yoga teachers and practitioners from the state. Now, when I was looking to form my council, it was very important for me to stay true to this very statement that I made in terms of the diversity of yoga, at least within the state. So yoga is not a monolith, and yoga is not just a unidirectional or a linear form of this is what yoga is. Yoga is many things, and yoga comes from different lineages, different schools of thought, different ways of practicing. So it was important to bring teachers from different lineages, different ways of thinking, so that, say, for example, my dominant way of practicing yoga does not become the dominant way. And that's important. It's important for us to step back and say, we represent, and we are still not the entirety. We're not the whole. The council also has a few practitioners, so they're not teachers. So it gives teachers the humility to step back and say, what does a practitioner, our own practitioner, see? What do we need to tweak about? We're also talking about the now in terms of the pandemic. How do we address it? And all of these are, in a way, structured from the reflection that I had from the international scope, the international platform of yoga, it was almost like that is what I see as what yoga is not. So what do I do here to recondition that, to reset the pattern? So it's important because you see, like in any situation, there's one thing for us to say, there is a problem, this is a problem, and to pinpoint problems. But the more constructive ways to say, okay, how can I solve it? What is my solution to it? What is the proposed solution? And a teacher of mine had once many years ago said, Luvena, yoga doesn't need defending. Yoga will stand by itself. It's a philosophy. But you see, as activists sometimes, or our swadharma does come in the way, it makes us feel, oh, we have to be doing this. We have to fix this. We have to set this right. I'm studying Vedanta right now, and a very recent conversation, actually, not a conversation, it's a study. So I have to keep quiet and listen. And of course, I have to ask as well. But there was a very interesting conversation where the teacher was telling us about how we usually come up to fight against what we consider is the problem. But the problem is just the nama-rupa of it. It's the illusion, it's the outside of it. But what actually exists is the deeper meaning. So what we end up fighting for is usually the mask. It's usually the outside effect. And we're still pondering over the ego. So at this point, it's almost a 50-50 thing. It's us doing what is righteous by addressing the concerns that this nama-rupa or this mask brings towards us. But at the same time, within and internally recognizing that although we are fighting for the mask, that on the inside, we have to let go of it and be true to ourselves. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. You're working on the outside, and at the inside, we're also saying, it is what it is. So
that sounds a little, I don't know if that means it's a little conflicting, because like you said, the righteous side wants to do things. The passionate side wants to move ahead and give it its rightful position. But there is also the yoga side that keeps telling you, I mean, the calm and the composed approach to the whole thing. Yeah. So that's very interesting.
Actually, in a way, that is what it is, It is because all the outside poise is what, you see, when they usually say that so we are an expression of a deeper I who just wants to experience all of this. So the one who's experiencing all of this is that individual. It's that individual Luvena, the individual Ritu. And we are saying, I want to do this. I am here. But the experience is from a deeper I who says, okay, Luvena, have your fill, have your fun, do what you want to do. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But the righteousness for the larger good does determine where we're headed. And see, these deeper philosophies, these deeper nuances, Ritu, it's easier to communicate in this kind of a setting because we kind of accept it. We say, we know these kind of esoteric conversations happen, But on the larger platform, when the esoteric reality of yoga is isolated, and you only take the tangible, logical part of yoga, then that is mispresenting it. That is breaking the truth of yoga and presenting it as, say, I see the body and this is what the body should be. So I teach anatomy, right? Anatomy is a pure science. It's the Western way of looking at the body, the physiology and all of that. And that will tell us, along with physics and biophysics and biomechanics, of how you move the body, how do you sit correctly, how you stand correctly so your body doesn't get injured in asana. And that's fine. That makes sense to the logical part of it. Now, Ayurveda does speak about that, but Ayurveda brings a little kind of a woohoo kind of a talk into it. Now it talks about the doshas, it talks about elements, it talks about energy and prana, which we know works in our body, but logically doesn't make sense because you can't see it. Now, if you discount it, then you're discounting a part of a whole body of, centuries and millennia of wisdom that is indigenous to this country. And it is true, just because it cannot be magnified or, or calculated, quantified by our logic, doesn't mean it isn't true. And just because hard science cannot be felt like a spirit, well, it can actually, doesn't mean that that is true either. So to integrate both of these is where the position of contemporary India is headed towards. We have able scientists, we have one of the best minds in the world in our country. It is possible to actually bring together a contemporary and integrated understanding of what our science, what our scriptures speak, what are or the science behind our wisdom, the wisdom traditions and our culture. And my hope is that through this conversation or going forward, that there is that possibility, there is that opportunity for India, for Indian yoga teachers to truly get platform, for their voices to be heard, for our scriptures, our sciences, our wisdom to actually be nourished and put out there, because it is something we need to be proud of. It is something that we have in our blood, in our genes, in the food that we eat. It is in our soil. And as a closing note, this is one thing that I really love to say, especially for all the yoga teachers out there, especially if you're listening to this right now. This is what I believe in. If you earn even 1 rupee from yoga, or even if your yoga practice gives you a donation from food from someone else, then you owe it to yoga to stand up for it, because yoga has given you that 1 rupee to earn. You can earn 40,000 or a lakh or 2 lakhs or whatever it is as well. But if you earn from yoga, either as financial currency or spiritual currency, then you owe it to the culture to give back and to really reposition yoga as the birthplace of this practice that we stand to benefit from.
Excellent. I think while our discussion's been short, I think it's been very impactful. You've left me with a lot to think about. And I'm going to reach out to the audience at large to say that if you're yoga practitioners or teachers, and if you'd like to join hands with Luvena in repositioning yoga in India, please reach out to her through the Wiki platform. She's available on Instagram, Facebook, and I really believe that more joining this little movement of yours, Luvena, would really reposition yoga in this country. It's something we've been waiting for a while, and I'm hoping that the goal and the end is round the corner. So thank you so much. And I'd also like to announce that WEF is conferring on you the iconic women leader of the iconic woman, creating a better world for all that you have been doing in your field and otherwise for all. So thank you so much for joining us. And please stay on because the next session, of course, is also going to be, the next topic would also be of interest to you, where we're going to be speaking with Annalise Pierce on hormonal de-stress through yin yoga and essential oils. So thank you, Luvena.
Thank you very much, Ritu. Thank you.